Hey, what's up? It's Comic95 the Savior, and for this video, I kind of want to talk to you in a raw kind of way, kind of journal style, but not quite exactly a journal. Just wanted to kind of rant to you about the importance, it's like a kind of a journal, the importance of, I don't know how to explain it. Basically, knowing what to look out for in an interracial relationship, and specifically interracial and international relationship. So of course this goes for all relationships, but this becomes so much more important when you are dating abroad, and specifically I'm talking to people that live in Japan like how I do, from a foreigner's perspective. And I've talked about all of these things before, but I felt this was worthy of having its own video, and I really got reminded to do this after having a Japanese guy like me on the dating app Pairs. So for those of you that do not live in Japan and aren't familiar, Pairs is the equivalent of eHarmony in the US. It is a serious dating app for Japanese people mostly that are looking to get married. It does not cater to foreigners. It is not in English, although of course Google Translate exists. You can translate what's being said inside of the app. So yeah, but the part that like really bothered me is that I noticed this not just within the app, not just on Tinder or anywhere else, but even with dating like Japanese men throughout Japan. And this goes for foreign men too, but I'm a straight black woman. I'm speaking from my own perspective, but of course this goes for men, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian from another country, or Asian American, whatever you happen to be. It goes for all of us. Sorry about that. Oh my god, that's like creeping me out. My game is playing in the background. I was playing The Sims. Give me 1 second, you guys. Okay, sorry about that. Oh my god, that freaked me out. I'm like so addicted to SimCity Build It, and I forgot that like I started playing it on my computer because I was like, oh my god, I can use my Chromebook to play it. But anyway, back on subject. That freaked me out. Yeah, I noticed. Let me get to my video because I'm sorry for making it so winded or whatever. I noticed that oftentimes like Japanese people, because they have no experience living abroad, they don't understand how difficult it is for you as the foreign partner in the relationship. And because of that, a lot of their ways of thinking are extremely self-centered and selfish, from their unwillingness to learn and accommodate you and your culture to being unwilling to learn your language. And this is why it is so important for you to really get to know your partner and like ask them questions and help them understand what you are going through. And if someone tells you something about themselves, like what they want or don't like and aren't willing to do, believe them. Do not try to force your partner to do anything. If they are your Japanese partner, I swear it's not a cultural difference, it's ignorance. If your Japanese partner has decided that they are only willing to date a foreigner that is fluent in Japanese, that they are only willing to date a foreigner that is willing to do things the Japanese way, with everything, like there's no compromising on anything, you have to do everything this way, this style, you don't want to date that type of person. In fact, you should be asking yourself, why are they looking to date a foreigner? Why are they even willing to give me a chance and date me? And you might say to yourself, well, you know, Pairs isn't a site made for finding foreigners or whatever, even though there's plenty of people using Pairs for that purpose that are Japanese. But you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to deal with somebody like that because you're asking for problems like later on down the road. And this is not to excuse you for being ignorant and to not understand Japanese culture or to not learn Japanese language. As an adult living here in Japan, you most certainly should be trying to learn and become fluent in Japanese, because you should not want to be 100% reliant on your partner. You should want to be able to help your children in the future, to handle legal stuff, to get, work, everything else, go to the grocery store. You want to be independent to a certain extent, even if you're a woman. And even more so as a man, you should want to be able to, take the lead. But at the same time, your partner needs to be understanding of the sacrifice that you're making by leaving behind your culture, your language, your country, your customs to accommodate them. So having a partner that is completely against doing anything that makes you feel comfortable, makes you feel at home, and instead they want you to completely change, or for you to completely compromise, or by compromise, I mean give up your, culture and 100% assimilate, that is completely narcissistic, unrealistic, and selfish of your partner to ask of you. There should always be balance when you're inside of a relationship like that. So a relationship takes two people. Just as you should be trying to study and learn Japanese legitimately, they should also be legitimately trying to study and learn English. A partner that tells you, I can only date somebody that can speak this level of Japanese, you should say to yourself, I wouldn't want to date a partner like that. It's one thing for them to say, I would prefer if my partner was fluent, or I prefer whatever. That's understandable. But for your partner to have as a requirement, like, oh, if you can't do whatever, then communication is impossible, I can't date you. It seems to make sense, but when you think about it, it trickles down into other areas of your life. It's not going to just stop at them, not being willing to marry or date someone that's not completely fluent. It goes into other areas of life. So, for example, like the way that you raise your children, the way that you discipline them, the way that you choose vacations, the way that you travel, the way that you spend and save your money, the way that you eat your food, like everything will become, well, if my partner can't do whatever. I know that becomes a fallacious argument because, it's like, oh, well, you're assuming that because one thing, then the other, and, making this whole domino effect up in your head. But I promise you, it is literally just a cultural thing. Same thing goes from the U.S. You give somebody an inch, they take a mile, essentially. And the problem is, I hate to create a fallacious argument, but there's really no way to say this without doing that. The problem is, your partner showing you that they don't respect your feelings by telling you, well, this isn't my culture, or this is Japan, so we do it this way, giving you the whole this is Japan speech, basically, is extremely ignorant. Like, I could never see myself being in America and telling my partner, well, this is America, we don't eat raw fish around here. Or, well, this is America, we don't do whatever around here. Like, you know what I mean? It's extremely, first of all, it's ignorant and insulting to that person's culture, but it's also ignorant and insulting to your partner. Like, separate their race, their language, their culture, everything else. You should care about your partner's feelings, and you should want them to feel happy and comfortable and make them feel at home. They are your guests. They have given up their life to choose to live in your country, and they're doing you a favor by doing that. So of course, underneath some circumstances, I do agree and understand, as a foreigner, you should be willing to assimilate probably the most and give up a lot to be here. But asking for something reasonable, like your partner not being a lazy ass and actually using the knowledge they should have gotten from elementary school, junior high school, and university, at the very least university and high school, to be able to communicate with you in English is not asking for a ton. Requiring them to be willing to try to pick up on English words, to buy a book and study a little bit in order to date and or marry you, is not asking for too much. That's very reasonable. A partner that's straight out telling you, like, I'm not going to study your language, you need to learn mine, you're in Japan. Why would you want to be affiliated or associated with and sleeping with somebody and recreate children with somebody like that? And the reality is, you're going to have problems later on in your relationship if you guys can't speak each other's language. And what I mean is, there's a mixture of both culture and language that, they both play a role with each other. They really can't be separated so much. A part of learning Japanese language requires you to understand Japanese culture, which is a big reason why a lot of the information you get from TikTok and YouTube is garbage. You're dealing with people that can't speak a lick of Japanese, and also people that speak Japanese but that don't understand Japanese culture. And they're preaching and teaching things that just aren't relevant anymore, but Japanese people don't care to correct it, or Japanese people believe in the lies to themselves because, again, they want to sell the image of Japan being perfect and this, old-fashioned, traditional, whatever type place. In fact, you'll find more foreigners giving you information on what not to do in Japan than you find Japanese people doing that in either language. So, yeah, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and that's the big reason why. And same thing goes with English. Somebody that can speak English from, let's say, some random European country, you cannot teach somebody about American culture just because you can speak English. Everything you know came from YouTube. From YouTube, random books you allegedly read, but no personal, real-life experience. You don't truly understand the culture. All that you know came from other sources, none of your own personal experience. And while sources can be credible and give us a lot of information and tell us a lot, and there can definitely be tons of truth to it, and you would think a source is more credible than a person. But the problem is, cultures are constantly changing, and if all you know is language and you're using your language ability to understand the culture, it's not quite exactly enough. I came to Japan knowing more about Japanese culture than I knew about language, and despite that, I said this before, I literally was running circles around my friends that could speak Japanese fluently at N2, N1 levels, even although I couldn't even read hiragana katakana back then, but I understood Japanese culture. Why? I heavily read about it, I listened to other people talk about their experiences, I listened to Japanese people talk about it, I read forums, and then even by sitting back and actually observing Japan for myself, that added an extra layer, and I discovered things that I read about and heard from other people were false, and I had to actually experience living here for myself and really looking at what's going on around me, instead of having my bias where I was like, oh, okay, they're doing this because I read about that, and really I found out, no, that's actually not true. They're doing this for a completely different reason, you misunderstood that. So, yeah, like for example, I was one of those people that believed Japanese people are just these super polite, really nice people until I actually started to understand their culture and realize, oh, this is just something to do out of formality. It's just a customary thing to say or do. They don't really mean this. Actually, that person's really pissed off at me. They're fake smiling. They're pretending to like me, but they don't really like me. Like, I had to learn a lot. And because their culture is so different from mine, and I read Japanese people are so nice, they're so clean, they're so whatever, I already had bias. I was looking at them as though they were these clean, polite, perfect, nice people. Same thing goes with food. You constantly get told Japanese food is so healthy, therefore it must be healthy. So now no matter how unhealthy or crappy your food is, I'm going to convince myself, oh, they didn't use that much oil. Oh, rice is good for you. Like, just everything. You'll make up excuse after excuse because you've been conditioned, you've read, you've been told, and you believe this is what it is. It's healthy. You see what I mean? So, not to get off into all of that, but I just want to say, like, it's so important for your partner to be willing to learn your culture and not to just chalk it up to what they learned in high school or whatever. Like, it needs to be an ongoing thing. Just like for you, it's ongoing. Your partner needs to learn English. If you are, I'm speaking from an American perspective. Your partner needs to learn whatever your native language is. And as an American, mine is English. Your partner needs to learn your language. They need to learn about your culture. I'm not talking about listening to the fun music that comes from there or the slang words or Hollywood movies per se, but they need to actually understand your race, your country, your culture. And they don't have to be an expert, but they need to be willing to learn. A partner that is telling you, I'm not willing to learn and you need to learn mine, and if I choose to, then it's whatever, that is not somebody that you want to make babies with or say I do to. That is not the right person for you. I can guarantee you that. They're telling you right now, I'm selfish. I think only about me. And they're telling you your feelings are insignificant and not important to me, is what they basically just said. You are living in their country. You're already having to deal with a whole world of new around you. The very least they can do is give you some peace and comfort when you come home at the end of the day to being able to talk to them in your native language, to be able to share food from your country, to be able to celebrate your holidays. A partner that tells you, well, this is Japan, I don't celebrate Christmas, I don't do whatever, I don't go to church, I don't do, X, Y, and Z. It's fine. They have the right to do that. But I'm telling you, don't think you're going to change this partner later on. Okay, I was thinking about this, and actually another example came to mind. A family friend of mine's who's actually a white guy, blonde-haired, blue-eyed American, typical. I think about him. He actually has a wife that he met while on a trip in Mexico. And he actually brought her back to the U.S., and she did not speak a lick of English. He didn't really speak Spanish. But instead of being the typical American, I'm using my own culture as an example to soften the blow on me talking about Japanese people. He didn't say, well, bitch, you need to learn English. No, he treated her with respect, and he wanted to learn about her culture. I literally, I'm not even friends with this person. He's a family friend. He's really closer to my sisters. But I literally enjoy, looking at his posts and seeing him, mess up with trying to cook traditional Mexican food. And over the years, he's actually learned how to speak Spanish. And pretty good, if you ask me. As of course, he's not perfect. He makes mistakes. But, do you see what I'm trying to say? Just the little things that we see from the outside. I don't know everything that goes on with the dynamics of their real relationship, but from what I get from it, and I've actually spoken to his wife a lot more, so I know her better than I know him. But yeah, I can tell that he really loves his wife, and it's not just because he got her a visa here or whatever. No. Rather the fact that he took the time to not only learn her language, but to learn her culture. That is so big and such a real thing. And I'm sorry for the foreign men watching this. I'm not really so much speaking for you guys. Of course it does matter. Your wife does need to care about your country and culture too. But it's a little bit different for you, especially since you're supposed to be the one taking the lead. This is why I said, not to say that you can't date or marry as a foreign man, but do keep in mind that most of the people that are in interracial relationships or marriages in Japan are typically foreign men with Asian women, or in this case, Japanese women. And the divorce rate is extremely high. Not to say that foreign women don't get divorced too. I'm just saying that I do think that has to do with that. But that's for another video. I'm not a man. Feel free to make your own on that topic. So, I'm speaking from a straight woman's perspective. And with that said, yeah, I find that that's something that you really need in a relationship. You need a partner that is making an effort. Now, I imagine that the man that I'm talking about, he doesn't do everything perfectly. He probably does plenty of American things that pisses her off. However, the fact that he's taken the time to learn about her culture, he celebrates holidays that are only celebrated in Mexico. Like, do you see what I'm trying to say? He's taken the time and effort, and not to only educate himself, but even the people around him. He's always trying to tell us, what he learned from, his little vacations and travels when he goes to Mexico and visits her family, and he brings back stuff and talks about it, and he speaks highly of both her culture, everything else. You don't hear him shitting on and talking crap about Mexico, etc. That's the type of man that you want to have. Now, sadly, this is an American example, not Japanese, but I'm using it as an example for what Japanese people should be willing to do. It's not taboo. What you're asking for is not crazy. You are simply asking the wrong person. And again, keep in mind, you can't expect these men to walk into the relationship knowing what you want and what you need. Closed mouths don't get fed. But after you explain to a man, like, the basics of things like, hey, I need help with this, I don't know how to do this, they should get an idea, oh, okay, they're always going to need help with things that require them, to do paperwork, or anything that requires them to, I don't know, go to some sort of government office, or, whatever the case is, or she really likes it when we celebrate holidays together, so in the future, I'm going to remember, instead of doing things my way all the time, maybe I should research what her culture is like. And I think about my ex-fiance, for example. One of the things that really made me happy about him is that he took the time to look into U.S. history, and on his own. I didn't say anything to him about black history, or he did this all by himself. And I'll be honest, it's something that really irritates me with black women when I see them do this. Quit trying to teach your husband how to be black. I'm sorry, there's no polite or politically correct way to say that. What I mean by that is, your spouse, your boyfriend, they're not stupid. They're aware that you are different from a white person. They know that you're not Asian. They know you're not Japanese. And with that said, if your partner cares about you, they will take the time to educate themselves. You don't have to sit there and indoctrinate your man. I didn't do that with my ex. You want to know what he did? He took the time to read about slavery. He actually taught me shit I didn't know about myself. I did not know that most black people have O blood type. Because in fact, I'm the only person in my family that has it. And it actually caused some problems. And we ain't finna talk about that part. But do you see what I'm saying? Just little things like that. Like, we don't just have to talk about slavery and bad parts about history. But, like, do you get what I'm trying to say? Really took the time to try to understand things. Same thing goes with my hair. After I explained to him that I need products that moisturize my hair, what did he do? He literally went to the store with me. I didn't even ask him, y'all. He took pictures of every single item that I use so that he can remember and know what to buy when he's by himself. I never asked him to do that. That was so sweet. So unique to that man. And it literally raised the bar for people that are dating in the future. Like, just little things like that. And I promise you, it's not a one-off situation. But again, everybody's a little bit different. Your man might need a little bit of nudging. But you shouldn't have to, like, tell your partner over and over again, well, I really like celebrating Christmas, so don't forget it's on the 25th. And, just little things like that. So don't feel like you have to compromise and sacrifice everything to be in an interracial and or international relationship. You should definitely be with a partner that, if anything, is sacrificing more of his culture and, and how can I put it, in preference or whatever, for your own. Because you're already sacrificing by choosing to live abroad in a foreign country. Within reason, though, you should not be expecting your partner to be cooking you full course American meals and shit. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm saying, like, if your partner is acting like you, like, I don't eat that, it's so fat, it's unhealthy, I don't like this, or this is Japan, we do it this way, or this is Japan, speak Japanese. You don't want a partner like that. I promise you, you're going to end up getting a divorce. It does not work out. Don't waste your time. Let me get back to the video. I can rant about this forever, but it just crossed my mind, like, thinking about how good he is to his wife. They've been married for nearly 20 years. They clearly really love each other. And I just love seeing them. Like, how into her culture he is. And how respectful he is of her. And how he's patient with her. He takes the time to learn about her. You want a man like that if you're going to date a Japanese man. Do not, sacrifice everything and give up your culture and pretend like you're okay with doing everything Japanese style. Like, you see all these little girls, like, on YouTube and TikTok, etc., pretending like they love all this shit. But I promise you, all those, like, cherry blossoms and green tea and shit, it gets old. Especially when you're talking about getting married to someone. You start to miss your culture. You miss your food. And honestly, Japanese food looks a lot better than it tastes. A lot of the stuff here looks really pretty, but it tastes like trash. I'm just keeping it real. And with that said, unless you're lying to yourself, I don't care what country you come from. You are going to feel homesick to a degree. Maybe you miss your parents. Maybe you miss the stores that you go to, the restaurants, whatever. You will definitely start to miss the food and drinks that you're used to. If your partner is so disrespectful to the point where they don't bother to learn and speak your language, they don't bother to learn, about your food, you don't want to date them. And don't limit this to just English. I mean, whatever language you speak. If your native language is German, you speak French, you speak Italian, I don't care what language you speak. If your partner loves you, they will take the time and effort not to use you for free lessons, but to learn on their own. I have never dated a man, seriously, that didn't at some point in their relationship buy an English book. My ex-fiance literally used to stay up late at night reading a conversational English book. And that literally, it's just so many little things I could think of. Like I said, I'll never shit on my ex as far as how he treated me inside our relationship. Overall, we had our issues and problems. I talked about it on Patreon. But overall, he was a good guy. And that's the type of man that I want to date. Somebody that goes through that type of effort for me. I'm doing a lot to assimilate, adjust, and adapt to being in Japan. You gotta meet me halfway. So I'm done. I'm sorry I just ranted for 10 minutes. But I had to throw this in there. It just made me think about it. So back to the video. You need to decide right now, is it important or is it not? And if you decide that it's not important and you don't care, then fine, by all means, go ahead. But when your marriage ends in divorce and things break up, well, then you know why. You're dealing with a partner that's already told you, I don't give two shits or fucks about you. This is about me. You want to date me, you get used to Japanese culture, Japanese life. Instead of being okay, I'm dating a foreigner. Being in a foreign country is scary, it's difficult, my language is hard, my culture is hard. I want to accommodate and help you. And remember, accommodating and helping you means compromising. I'm not saying that you all have to speak English 24/7. I am not saying that, you all have to only celebrate American holidays and they have to do everything the way you want to. But there should be balance. It shouldn't just be you doing everything Japanese style, Japanese culture, Japanese language, and your partner puts a minimal effort, if any at all, to accommodate and help and serve you. There's an issue when your partner is okay with you giving up everything that you normally like and do, but they don't have to give up anything. And when they try to belittle your feelings with excuses well, that's because you're in America. Yeah, Americans do whatever. This is Japan. No. You don't want to date somebody like that. That's an asshole. That has nothing to do with cultural difference. That's a narcissist. You don't want to be with somebody like that. Somebody that's too busy thinking about themselves, their feelings, their gratification, what they want, what they need, and they are so selfish and stubborn, they can't even be bothered to spend 5 minutes a day trying to study and learn your language. They're not apologetic. They're just straight up front. And to be honest, thank these people because they're doing you a favor. Instead of pretending like they're going to learn later and pretending like they care to, they're telling you right up front, I ain't doing that shit. You want to date me? You got to be able to do whatever. How we going to talk? Or I don't do that holiday. Or I don't eat that food. I don't do whatever. Okay. And, this goes in reverse, too. Because don't get me wrong, I definitely see the opposite of it, too. I cannot tell you how many times I've come across white guys, their profile, even some black men, too, where their profile would say, I don't speak Japanese, so English only, or, something like that. Or somebody would say, I don't eat raw fish, or I don't do it. And that's cool. You don't have to love everything in Japan, and it's okay to want your partner to be bilingual. But if you're telling me that's a deal breaker, that you are completely unwilling to try sushi, you are completely unwilling to be an adult, mature your taste buds, try something new, get used to new flavor, new texture, you're telling me that you're planning to live here, but you have no interest in learning Japanese. You're not going to try, you're just going to be lazy and let your wife do all the talking for you. As a Japanese woman, you shouldn't want a man like that. I totally understand. As a Japanese man, I imagine it's also frustrating when your partner can't speak or understand a lick of Japanese language, doesn't know a lick of Japanese culture, and you're having to baby her and do everything for her. She can't do any paperwork. She can't talk for herself at all under any circumstances. That's a little bit understandable, but once again, they shouldn't be viewing you the same way as a Japanese partner. So if your partner is looking at you as a burden, I gotta do the paperwork, I gotta do the, fill out this form, do whatever for you. If that's the way you're viewing it, instead of, I'd be happy to help you, why would you want to date them? Because the reality is, the things that we struggle with and need so much help and translations for, it's simple shit for them. They've never done it before because they're not a foreigner. They've never had to go to immigration. But if your partner is giving you a lot of flack because you're asking them to tell you what this means, or you're asking them to go to immigration with you or whatever, and they're getting mad at you, and they're unwilling to help and they're complaining, oh, please learn Japanese, please do whatever. Do you want to date somebody that's even passive like that? Like, if that even crosses your mind to form your mouth to say those words to me or your partner, period. How shitty of a person. I would never in 1,000 years say to my Japanese partner in the US and be like, I gotta go to the DMV with you. Like, please learn English. Like, damn. Like, just learn how DMV works. Watch a YouTube video. I would never say that. I would take the time off from work and be more than happy to help them out and speak on their behalf. Why? Because I am an American. I'm a native English speaker. I was born and raised in the US. I can help my partner in ways that other people cannot, including themselves, no matter how well they can speak. It always feels so much better to have a native with you. I know firsthand from going to immigration. I've only gone with another person maybe once or twice out of the countless times I've had to go to immigration. Same thing goes with City Hall. However, every time I have a Japanese friend or boyfriend to go with me, and same thing goes for the bank, I normally go by myself. But anytime my boss or my fiance could go with me, I was so happy. Why? Because they're a native. I don't have to worry. I be really careful with listening or anything else. I know that they can help me. I know that they have, my best interests, whatever. They are going to make sure I'm not getting cheated. They're going to ask the right questions. Things will move by much more smoothly. It's sad that it works that way because there is some prejudice that plays into that as well. But that's facts. Your partner knows that. They're not retarded. A partner that doesn't care and you have to explain to them why they need to go with you, why they should care, why they need to do X, Y, and Z. You don't want somebody like that. That's the equivalent of having to tell your man, hey, instead of us just fucking and watching random Netflix shows every day, I like to go out on a real date. The moment that you have to form your mouth and tell a man that you want to be treated like a lady and taken out and taken care of. Sorry about that, guys. My light actually went out. I need to charge it. But anyway, back on subject. I was using an LED light, but it has a USB cord and it died. And I don't know where my charger is for it. So anyway, back on subject. Yeah, like the moment that you have to explain to a guy, like, oh, like I want to do whatever. Like, men are not dumb. They know you want to go to a restaurant. They know that they're using you to taking advantage of your stupidity and naivety and that you're willing to just sleep with him not paying for a date or doing anything or taking you out and showing you his friends. They know that you want to hang out with him on the weekend and not just for 2 hours after work when he's ready to bust his nut between 9 and 11 p.m. Okay, same difference. Your man understands why you want him to go to immigration with you. He might not be smart enough to realize that he should volunteer to go. That's understandable. But if he's complaining, like, why can't you do this yourself? Or, like, I don't know. I have to, like, anytime we deal with somebody that's, giving you a hard time, and even if they're nice about it, they're like, oh, okay, I'll go, but please learn Japanese. Like, anytime you're dealing with somebody that's coming from a place of ignorance, instead of being like, oh, of course I'll go. I want to help you. Please tell me what I need to do for you. Anytime you're getting a response that's different than that, run. So again, like for men that are watching this, look at this video in reverse. Your Japanese partner, of course, she'd prefer if you could do things yourself, understandably, because this is kind of a different area, because a woman wants a man to lead, but at the same time, she should understand you are a guest in her country. In fact, women probably can get this a lot more easily than men can, because women tend to think and they're more emotional and sympathetic and empathetic, etc. Okay. With that said, if you're having to explain to your Japanese girlfriend, wife, whatever, that you need help and you really, whatever, and she's giving you a hard time, or the fact you have to explain it to them, all you should have to do is ask, hey, can you help me with whatever? Oh, sure, okay. It shouldn't be, I wish you could do whatever. Please learn, Japanese. Oh, this is Japan. We're doing it this way. Oh, like, we celebrate it this way. I'm not saying expect your partner to give up their culture, their language, their traditions, everything else. Again, you are in their country. And even if you are in your own country, you are in an interracial, international, whatever you want to call it, relationship. You need to be understanding of that, and you need to accommodate your partner. Regardless, it should always be split 50-50. You should be accommodating your partner just as they accommodate you. Your goal is to make it fair. You want their life to be easy. And to be honest, sometimes fair isn't quite exactly fair in the sense that we both have the same thing, but rather a matter of equity, equality, whatever you want to call it. They have different meanings. You want to give them the same opportunity that you would have as a native English speaker. So as your partner in America, you would understand they don't know my culture. They don't know my language the way that I do. So even if my partner is completely fluent in English, I recognize that if I let my partner go to the bank to get a loan, go to try and get a mortgage, they don't know how to negotiate, what questions to ask. They don't know about credit checks. There's all types of lies that I can picture an American salesman saying to my Japanese husband. So what am I going to do? I can use initiative and be like, I'm not going to let you do that by yourself. I'm coming with you. Can he speak English very well? Yes, he can. Probably better than anyone watching this video. But I know that speaking the language is not the same as understanding the culture. You can understand all the questions that they're asking you, but unless you live in America, you probably don't know about all the lies of soft credit checks. It's not going to be on your record. It's not going to do whatever. You're not going to know the negotiation strategies, what is not appropriate to say or do. You're not going to know what to look out for. You're going to be naive and gullible. Some things require cultural knowledge. You could be a native English speaker, but if you don't understand the context of American culture, you won't get a lot of the jokes that we tell. Even racial ones. They make no sense to you unless you heavily watched and listened to American English content. I'm American and I'm having to learn a lot of crazy shit from listening to British and Australian people because their English is so different. Even Canadians. But especially, British and Australian people. Their curse words, their angry words or whatever, like I had just recently started hearing the term bloke. Like, just, crap like that. We don't use these words. Taking the piss or whatever. Like, I never heard any of that stuff. All I can do is use the fact that I speak English and be like, I am guessing that's not a good thing. And then I can learn, like, oh, okay, now I understand what that means. But prior, I'm just as lost as a Japanese person who doesn't speak English natively. I don't know what that means. I had to learn it. Why? Because I don't know British culture. Besides colonization. But that's another story. So anyway, back on subject. Yeah. It's something that you really need to think about when you are inside of a mixed race relationship. You need your partner to be understanding towards you. You need your partner to be selfless. You need your partner to be sympathetic and empathetic, both towards your culture, so respectful too, towards your culture, and you as their partner. Their mindset should not be, this is Japan, learn Japanese culture, please do it by yourself. I dated a monster like that, and it didn't work out. Unfortunately, for some people, they actually marry those people. And I promise you, it never works out. It doesn't. You can, do your fake smiles and make your videos online for YouTube. But I'm talking about your real relationship, what's really going on behind closed doors. You do not want to date a selfish-ass, monstrous partner like that. Even if you're not going to get married and you just want to date and have boyfriend-girlfriend relationships, how can you have a good relationship with a partner that is so selfish, stubborn, narcissistic, that they can't even see that you're asking them to do something microscopic, insignificant, small, and generally cheap and free, because they don't always have to take time off of work to accommodate you and help with this stuff. You can't even translate something for me? When you speak English? Or forget about that, I'm supposed to learn Japanese and spend hours of my time, tons of my money to take language lessons, classes, read books. You were literally born and raised with English all around you, from signage to product labels to TV to movies to music, entertainment. You spent a good 6+ years learning it between junior high and high school. If you went to university, you learned it there too. And you can't even speak it fluently? Here I am. I had no opportunity to learn Japanese. Your language is so complicated that even if I learn how to speak it fluently, which I theoretically can do that, I can never read and write it fluently at an adult level. I will always need help with paperwork. Can't read all of that shit. Every time I move, I gotta study how to write my address in kanji all over again. And do it horribly. You don't have those same problems. You already learned my phonetic alphabet. Or excuse me, not phonetic alphabet. You've already learned my alphabet. There is no phonetic alphabet to learn in addition to. We have one alphabet, only 26 characters, and it's used for nearly every language, with the exception of Asian languages, because many of them have their own system. Many of the major ones, that is. Korean, Chinese, and Japanese have entire different writing systems. Do you see how ridiculous that is? You're expecting me to do that within a few years. You've had your entire life. And not only do you not know it, so really you should be apologizing and feeling shameful for not knowing it, you have the audacity to be passive aggressive towards me for not being able to learn a useless language that serves no purpose in the world. Chinese and English are the two biggest languages that are actually worth learning because they actually allow you to do real business. You do not need to be able to speak Japanese to do business in Japan. And so again, to be fair, yes, you should, as your partner, including myself, you should be learning Japanese, studying it constantly, and I am. But I would never want to date a guy who told me that that was his requirement. I would never want to date a man who, when I ask you if you can help me with something, your first reaction is for me to learn Japanese, assuming that I don't, just because I asked for help. Sorry, but learning Japanese is not going to allow me to sign legal documents and do paperwork. Not to mention because this country is so racist, whether you're white, Asian, another Asian, non-Japanese, Hispanic, whatever you are. It helps you to have a Japanese person go with you to any establishment, whether it be a restaurant, a legal office, or anything else. Having a Japanese, native born and raised Japanese person accompany you will generally allow things to go in your favor. I will never understand how this person was able to do it, but I had moved from Tokyo to Osaka with no Juminho. This woman went to some sort of, whatever city hall office. Wasn't even the city hall near my place. I don't know what she said, but she explained to them that I'd already moved and I needed a Juminho for the apartment that I got. She came in literally 15 minutes before they closed. And she got me a copy. Same day, 15 minutes before they closed. We were in and out of there in I think less than 30 minutes, y'all. When I went to try to do it myself, nope, we don't do that. You gotta sign this letter, whatever, mail that back, and they'll send it to you in the mail, and then you can come back and get it. But you gave it to her on the spot. So why can't I do the same thing? Same thing goes in immigration. They can be a hard ass and give you a hard ass time. Bring a Japanese person with you. Watch how differently they talk to your Japanese partner. They're not gonna roll their eyes and, be funky and be rude to you then. It's racist. It is. And let's stop with the bullshit with, xenophobic prejudice. Are you aware that xenophobic and prejudice are all synonyms for the word racist? Not to mention when your reasoning for mistreating someone is because you believe them to be lesser than you, that would be racist. Xenophobic would just be a fear of outside people. That is not the case. When you are purposefully classing people and mistreating them because you think less of them because of their race, that is called racism. Let's clarify that. I made a whole video about this already, but yeah, it's really sad because like I said, I'm thinking to myself, I know that, my profile's written in Japanese and that I can speak Japanese and I can read Japanese too, but I'm not going to fool myself. If you telling me inside your profile, which nobody asked, you might have asked, I was like, why would you even write all of that shit? That it's impossible for you to talk to a foreigner, if they're not fluent in Japanese, blah, blah, blah. Why would I want to speak to you? Because you're immediately telling me that you're lazy. I think it's natural to want your partner to be bilingual. But see, the issue is you're not bilingual. You don't speak English. So you're completely relying on me to be able to speak your language in Japanese. This is going to cause all type of problems. Because if we have a disagreement, an argument, anything else, I'm going to have to be able to convey my feelings strictly in your language. Whereas you have made no effort to try to learn mine, even although my language is more useful than yours. Do you see the problem with that? And you're doing the least minimal sacrifice. The only sacrifice you got going on is maybe I'll never be able to make miso soup as good as a Japanese girl you could have married. Whereas for me, I miss out on everything. Gave up my entire life to be in a relationship with you. And that's how you repay me? You're too good to pick up a damn book and learn English for 5 minutes a fucking week? You're too lazy to do that? You're too lazy to help me, go to the bank? You're too lazy to help me set up my utilities? Like, you see, just little shit like this. And mind you, if you're having these problems before you all get married, do you want to stay with somebody like that? You want to make babies with them? You want to have a wedding with them? Because what's going to happen in the future? When you have bigger conflicts and arguments, what's going to happen when you want to go back? And I've met people like this, white people in particular, both Canadian and American, where they want to go back and see their family for the holidays. And their wife was like, oh, well, this is Japan. Like, we don't do that. Like, we travel domestically. So when Christmas comes around, they're like, no. You can go see your parents, but I'm taking the kids to go see grandma here. Do you see the problem with this stuff? Y'all don't think that far. You're too busy thinking about getting your little green card, your visa secured. Too busy thinking about short-term crap. Think about the future. If your partner can't compromise on learning your language, you think she finna let you run off with your kids for the holidays to go see grandma in your country? It pours off into other things. It ain't everybody, but it happens to a lot of people. So just my own opinion, my own 2 cents. I'm just saying that I find that really sad that, when you have a partner that is so ignorant that they don't even realize what's wrong with what they're saying or thinking. And I think it's sad when somebody even has to explain that to them. But as I said, do yourself a favor, especially ladies, girls. Please do not be dumb bitches. Y'all be doing some stupid shit here. I read about it in forums all the time. Stop telling Japanese men what you fucking want. I'm sorry, I had to say that shit. Y'all irritate me with that stuff. They are not stupid. Japanese men are some of the smartest niggas on earth. Excuse my language. These J niggas, they know what they are doing. They know what you want. They know you want to text back. They know you want to date. They know that they shouldn't be messing you at 9, 10 o'clock at night. They know that you're not up at 3 a.m. They are after your pussy. They're using you and you're stupid for letting them do it. And with that said, if a man cares about you, loves you, wants you, they will show you. They're not dumb. When they talk to a girl that they really want love and respect, they spend their money, they plan real dates, they give them their time, they're willing to compromise. They are apologizing for their lack of English ability, lack of cultural knowledge. Your man is not doing that. He ain't your man. I had to learn that the hard way. I'm not saying it to make you feel like shit. I'm trying to keep you from being a dumb bitch like how I was. Men, that goes for you too. The Japanese girl you're talking to is not so busy with work, so tired and stressed out. Her family's not so busy doing whatever. She's a god liar, okay? She's lying to you. She not busy. She didn't move. She's not sick. She's not taking care of her daddy. Yeah, she taking care of her daddy, all right. She's sucking some nigga off. If she cared about you, she'd make time for you. She's dating and having sex with other people. She's getting gifts from other men. She's playing you. He's playing you. Don't let these people fool you. Everything is not a cultural difference. They think you're desperate. They've been taught that you like sex. And so they're taking advantage of it and they are exploiting you. Please have some balls for yourself. Lady balls too. You have to defend yourself and decide enough is enough. If I'm of importance to you, it doesn't take you 2 or 3 or 4 days to get back to a good morning text. If I'm of importance to you, you're not going to plan a date with me at midnight. You're not going to go on a drive date or go to the gym. Excuse me, I got hair in my face. I think I should move back. Maybe my LED light is done charging. But whatever, we're going to stay here. Men make time for what they want and care about. Your Japanese partner is still, speak from a straight woman's perspective, is still a man. Men universally know what women want. They might not be able to choose the restaurant that you want unless you tell them. But they know what qualifies as a crappy date versus a decent one. They do not need help in that department. If your partner is telling you, I don't give a fuck, I'm selfish, I only care about me, believe them. Stop trying to make it into something that it is not. Quit making up excuses for why he can't help you, can't do whatever. Oh, he's busy. Oh, it's work. Oh, he's so tight. Keep believing that. If you're okay with getting cheated on and used willingly, think about it, all means, go ahead. I mean, it happens in relationships. But if you want that to happen, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. I can't. But don't play dumb and chalk it up. Oh, it's a cultural difference. Oh, I didn't know. You did know. You chose to ignore it. You don't want to marry a partner that's too busy to learn your language, that's too busy to learn your culture, that doesn't like your culture, doesn't like whatever. I don't like everything about Japan either. I learned to deal with it. I don't like eating 10 pounds of rice and 12 bowls of soup. I don't like a lot of the vegetables here. I don't have to pretend to like it for my partner's sake. But because I know my partner likes it, I can learn to cook these things. I can stomach eating it. It's not going to kill me. Your partner can't do that for you? Just think to yourself, do you really want to marry somebody like that? You want to go into labor with an asshole like that? How are custody battles going to take place? Your partner is literally giving you red flags. They're telling you your emotional needs are not of importance to me. Your partner can't truly love you and understand you when they don't know your language and your culture. And that goes for you too. Do not be lazy as a foreigner and decide, I'm not going to learn Japanese. I don't care about Japanese culture. My wife, my husband, my whatever is going to do everything for me. No, I'm not saying be like that. But we're speaking from the foreigner's perspective. I'm specifically speaking to you from a woman's perspective. You do not want to be with a man that is telling you, you do everything for me to accommodate my culture in Japan. That's basically trying to make you into a Japanese wife. But he doesn't have to become an American husband for you. He can do whatever the fuck he wants to and chalk it up to, well, you chose to be in Japan. Okay, and you chose to marry a foreigner. So, why would you want a selfish, abusive, neglectful partner like that? They're literally openly telling you, hey, I don't give a fuck about your feelings, your opinion, what you like. It's all about me. It's so much easier dating a partner that is bilingual than someone that can only speak Japanese. Because mind you, that's where the really big issue comes from. You're not holding yourself up to the standard of learning English. You're saying, I'll give you a chance if you can speak my language. But don't expect me to learn Japanese. Don't expect me to learn English. Nope. I'm Japanese. This is Japan. I'm lazy. I'm not going to learn shit. But you need to learn or know Japanese if you're going to communicate with me. And I was thinking, look, what a shame. He was a cute guy too. Probably going to be an F-boy anyway. It's a waste. And as a foreigner, don't pat yourself on the back and be like, well, I can speak Japanese fluently, so I would date him anyway. Okay, hell, so can I. However, I can also be real with myself and say, I do not want to be with a partner that specifically says, basically, I'm not going to learn your shit, but if you know mine, then yeah, I'll date you. And he literally said inside his profile, he wrote down underneath, because they give like a little box so they can elaborate on their language requirements for their partner. He literally said, it's impossible for me to date someone who cannot speak Japanese fluently. He did not list that he could speak English. It says that he can only speak Japanese. So not you apologizing, oh, I'm sorry, I can only speak Japanese, but I want to learn English, or, I'll try my best, or whatever. Nothing like that. Just, well, if she could speak Japanese, then yeah, sure. We'll make it work. Like, how is that fair? And let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that he would be okay with that. Why do you want to date a partner that you have to ask to learn your language? Better yet, why do you want to date a partner on either side, from the foreigner side or the Japanese side, that's lazy and has no interest in learning a second language? Everybody has to start somewhere. But I'm sorry, being 30 plus grown and you can't speak a second language at all, like, I'm not talking about being perfectly fluent, because I'm not there either. I studied Spanish before I started with Japanese. Not fluent in Spanish either. I know a little bit. Japanese, I would say I know some. Always still trying to learn more. However, I understand, again, it's one thing to say, I want my partner to, try to learn my language. Because I agree with that. Nobody wants to date a selfish partner. I wouldn't want to date a foreigner that has no interest in learning English if I were living in America. I would understand that. However, I would not be harsh on my partner and have the strict requirement, you have to be able to speak English, otherwise I'm not going to date. And I'm sure there's Americans that are like that. I mean, look, watch 90 Day Fiancé. I have rarely seen any couples on my show where, the American partner was bilingual. They normally just spoke English and expected their partner to learn it and get used to it, whatever. Weren't accommodating. It does happen, don't get me wrong. But in comparison to Japan, I find that Americans are a lot more accommodating than they are here. And everybody ain't like that. I'm just giving an example of some things that I do see. And I haven't really had a ton of experiences like this myself. But I will say that when you see these guys, it's always a red flag. Run. And for men, you really need to do it. Because this is how you end up with them kids and getting kidnapped by these Japanese girls that run off with your baby. If she's already telling you that your feelings don't matter to her and if she wants you to accommodate her culture and hers only, you have to do her holidays, her everything based on Japanese culture, Japanese everything. You can't eat American food. She's only going to cook Japanese food. You might be okay with it for a moment. But again, you have to think to yourself, would she be okay if I said that to her? And is she even considering my feelings? Like, yeah, Japanese food might taste great, but what if I want, a hamburger every once in a while? What if I want, some hot wings? So we're only going to eat food that you like? Oh, so if you say it's unhealthy in American, then we can't eat it. But even if it's unhealthy in Japanese, we can eat it because you like it. Do you see the problem? I've literally had friends here that were celebrating all holidays Japanese style, including the American ones. So, for example, his wife was having him celebrate Valentine's Day the American way, only because that means that she gets gifts and taken care of. But every other holiday, they did Japanese style. And he thought that was a brag-worthy, cute story. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I would keep that to myself. That's embarrassing. You're literally telling me that your wife is selfish. That's not something to brag about. Nothing wrong with being taken care of by your man. And nothing wrong with your man treating Valentine's Day as a day for you. Because to be honest, that's been my experience too. But for you to tell us that your wife demands that you guys celebrate Christmas their style and that you do everything their way and she is not caring about how you might feel or what you might want to eat or what you like. He talked about that too. His wife talking about how she doesn't like to cook American food because it's greasy. Like, well, she probably don't know how to season her shit right. And so it's like, okay, and Japanese food is greasy and fattening too. Y'all eat yakiniku, yakitori, all of them fried ass foods and shit, tempura, etc. Sushi not super healthy either, might I add. In fact, a lot of that shit got maggots and worms. We ain't gonna talk about that, but ambulance came perfect timing. it's just so much stuff where I'm like, why would you put yourself inside of a shitty relationship like that purposefully with a garbage ass partner that's saying, I don't give a fuck about you and your feelings? So I'm done. This video ain't going nowhere else. I'm just saying, like, that's so important for you. Please, 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 please do not, whatever you do not marry someone, date someone who is telling you, I don't care about your feelings. Life is about me. You want to marry me, learn my culture, learn my language. That should not be the case. It should be some give and some take. It's like, it should always be where there is a 50-50 partnership going on. Your partner should be understanding and accommodating to the fact that you are a foreigner living in their country and that you are not going to understand and know everything about their language. Sorry, I'm trying to wipe my hand. And that you are going to need help. Just as you need to learn Japanese and Japanese culture, so Japanese language and Japanese culture, they need to be learning English and American culture too. And that's not just guns and twerking and eating hamburgers. I mean, really understanding your country's history, really understanding your culture, how you think, how you feel. Not just all of the good things, but the bad too. You are accommodating and being understanding towards them if you are the average good Gaijin here. You're not asking for too much, for expecting, requiring, or wanting your partner to honor you, to care about you too. It shouldn't be where I'm always celebrating and eating things that you want to. And I'm learning things that you want me to. And you should not be so selfish that your mindset even has it where your mouth can form the words out of your mouth to show that you are annoyed with me, whether it be passively or angrily, that you want me to do things myself because I'm basically a burden to you. Because if your partner is already that selfish this early on in the relationship, it will only get worse as things go on. Do not set yourself up for disaster. Date and marry another man or another woman that will never say something stupid like that, but that instead will tell you that they are studying on their own. In fact, almost every Japanese man I've ever dated, even when they've been fluent, they have gone out and bought a book to study English more heavily because they felt encouraged to do so, because they wanted to understand me, my language, my culture. My ex-fiance, he went and started watching, black documentaries and movies on slavery, etc. Why? Because he wanted to understand my culture, my language, my history, what I liked, what black people eat, etc. He wanted to learn. I've dated several people like that. Those are the type of people that you want to date. Every relationship ain't going to lead to marriage and fiancés, etc. But you don't even want to date and waste your time with people that won't. And when I say won't, I mean won't be willing to marry you. And two, that won't be willing to understand and learn your culture. It won't be a good relationship. Likewise, to be a good partner to your Japanese spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, you need to try to study their language, their culture. And that means beyond hentai and anime and crap like that in video games. I mean really understanding their history, really understanding their food, really understanding their fashion, their way of thinking, their social problems, their economy, really understanding Japanese. It takes time. You're not going to learn these things overnight. That's understandable. But to be so damn lazy that you can be living in Japan for 10 years and you can't even read hiragana, katakana. You can't even speak to get basic things done for yourself. That's lazy. And I ain't finna get into this, but man, like them girls I was working with, for example, that I made those videos about, that's a prime example of that. Staying in a country for years and years and years. And not even having the basics down. This isn't to compare yourself or compete with other people, but I am saying that a part of being in an interracial or international relationship is that there has to be give and take. You have to respect and understand their culture. They need to do it towards yours. So I'm done just slooping around with this video. That's really it. Just please be careful about who you're dating. Remember, you're making children with these people. That's really scary. Somebody that's showing you that they are heartless, they're selfish, they lack empathy, they lack sympathy. Someone that you have to explain what you want to do. You don't want to be with them. I have to tell you, hey, I need you to go to immigration with me. And instead of you being like, oh, okay, sure, I'll go. I have to explain why I need you to go with me. And I have to beg you and give you incentives to. No. Don't waste your time with someone like that. Someone that you have to explain, hey, Christmas is a really big deal in my home country. I really want you to meet my family. I really want you, to see the ball drop for New Year, whatever. And the response is, well, in my culture, we do whatever. Missing seeing your parents for one New Year holiday, and I've been here for how many years, and I haven't seen my family? Like, I'm having to compete with you? Like, really? No. You don't want to date somebody like this. Waste of time. So that's it. Please share your own experiences down below if you're a foreigner living here in Japan. Have you ever dealt with a partner that refused to learn your language, that refused to understand your culture? Would you be willing to date somebody like that? Have you ever dated a Japanese person that couldn't speak any English? I know that I have, and it has never worked out for those very reasons. Whenever any type of problem arose, they were too stuck in their culture, their language, and they didn't give two shits about mine, and it just became, well, I'm done with the relationship then. Move on. So it always translates into other areas. Like I said, I noticed that you can't have arguments or debates properly when you're dealing with somebody that's not sensitive to your culture, your language. So please share your own experiences down below. If you enjoyed this video, please check out my YouTube channel's homepage. I have tons of videos and journals about random topics. I'm mostly dealing with Japan. I have playlists on everything such as working, dating, studying, living in Japan. If you like more personal videos about my personal life, dating, work, etc., please consider becoming a patron. It's $5 per month. I have over 100 videos there already. The links for everything are down in the description box. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Comic95. I have a Snapchat and TikTok at Comic the Savior, and I have a Facebook fan page at Comic95 the Savior, and a blog at comic95.com. Again, the links for everything are in the description box down below. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, I hope you'll check out another one. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching.